Depending on when you're watching this, Microsoft Flight Simulator has either just come out or is about to come out. But has it killed off the beloved flight simulator that a lot of us have been flying up until this point? XPlane. Now, those of you that have watched my channel for a while will know that I'm a pilot in real life more than I am a flight simulator pilot, so this is going to be a very objective look at the differences between Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and XPlane, and which one should you choose? The first decision you're probably going to make comes around cost, and there's a few subtle differences here. XPlane retails for $83 Australian or $59 US. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is $99.95 for the standard edition. Microsoft Flight Simulator then has two additional options you can choose on top of that, being the Deluxe Edition for $139.95 and the Premium Deluxe Edition for $179.95. The differences with those is basically more airplanes and more airports. You get 5 more in the Deluxe version and 10 more in the premium version. Then the question arises, what if you want to try them out before you actually spend your money? And this is where I think XPlane has a slight advantage, because XPlane does have a demo version that you can download and try out for free. It does restrict the locations that you can fly in, and there is only 10 minutes of gameplay, but you can download the entire version. It's not a restricted version in terms of functionality, whereas with Microsoft Flight Simulator, there's no demo as far as I can see as yet. However, there is one kind of workaround that you can use to get access to Microsoft Flight Simulator for a lot less than the full retail price. And that's using the Xbox Game Pass system, which will cost you, depending on where you are, only a couple of dollars per month. There are some introductory offers as well, like here in Australia. You can actually get it for $1 a month at the moment. However, one caveat on that is that that only gives you access, as far as I can see, to the standard version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So if you do want some of the aircraft or locations that are in the deluxe or the premium versions, you can't get that if you just use the Xbox Game Pass. In terms of hardware, well, as you'll know if you've watched this channel, I have bought a PC just so I can use Microsoft Flight Simulator. It only runs on a PC, whereas XPlane runs on both a Mac and a PC. So if you are a Mac user already and you're just looking for a flight simulator to basically get on and try and practice with, maybe you don't want to go to the lengths of investing in a separate PC just to run Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just very quickly on that as well, I had quite a few comments on my last video about the PC build on a short sequence at the beginning of it when I did this. I just want to reassure you, I only did that to make the video a little bit more interesting. I didn't really, it was cushioned, so I knew that I wouldn't break it. It was just a gag. I still have the laptop, I didn't waste it. And for all of you telling me off that I should be recycling it or giving it to someone else, well, I still have it. The system requirements for running the hardware is actually fairly similar between the two. Both recommending a CPU on the lines of an Intel i5, both recommending around 4 gigabytes of VRAM. And RAM itself, well, XPlane suggests between 16 and 24 gigabytes. Microsoft Flight Simulator has a minimum of around 16. They're all kind of in the same ballpark. One fair difference between the two, though, is in terms of actual hard disk storage. The default XPlane build, without any add-ons, no sceneries, no airports, no additional aircraft, of course, comes in at around 20 gigabytes of storage required on your machine, whereas Microsoft Flight Simulator recommends a minimum of 150 gigabytes. Now, I haven't played around with Microsoft Flight Simulator in terms of offline streaming, but it does rely a lot on having a decent internet connection to download a lot of the environmental rendering files on the fly, which is a brilliant thing. It means you can basically jump into a location, go flying, and in the background it will download all of this information for you. XPlane, on the other hand, will generally prompt you if you don't have the scenery packs required for the place that you're flying in. You can then go ahead and download them in one hit, and when you go flying, it's not downloading in the background. Both have their pros and cons, of course, but if you are going to run Microsoft Flight Simulator to its fullest potential and you are going to want those graphic files to download on the fly, it does recommend you have an internet connection of around 20 megabits a second. If you are hamstrung by your internet connection and it's not quite as fast as what Microsoft is suggesting you should have, maybe that's a consideration of going ahead and buying this piece of software. As I mentioned before, I do fly in real life. I'm fortunate enough to be able to fly a Cirrus SR22 here in Australia. And when it comes to specific models, this will be another consideration in terms of the flight sim that you end up buying. In terms of the Cirrus SR22, when it comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator, that's only included in the premium version. That's the most expensive of the 3 options. XPlane doesn't actually have a Cirrus SR22 built into it natively. It does have the SF50 Vision Jet, but you can download additional aircraft for free. Models have been put out there on the internet as freeware for anyone to download. You can obviously pay for them using products like TalkSim's, really good, SR22. But the point being is that XPlane does have more options at the moment, obviously because it's been out for longer. I don't know if Microsoft have any intentions of allowing third-party developers to create models to be flown within Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just be aware that you may be a little bit more restricted on the aircraft models you can fly in that right now, as opposed to something like XPlane, which has been around for a lot longer. Now, as well as using flight simulators for an education and flight training point of view, don't forget you might want to use these just kind of for the fun of it as well. After all, these are generally treated as games a lot of the time. And this is where Microsoft Flight Simulator really comes into its own when you compare it to XPlane, which is with the really cool multiplayer functions. Currently, the only way you can really do multiplayer gaming in XPlane is with add-ons like the excellent VATSIM, for example, but it's built into Microsoft Flight Simulator out of the box. So if you are looking for a product which you can fly with other people online, you can fly with friends, you can do virtual fly-ins, which I would really love to do on this channel as well, that kind of fun gameplay, Microsoft Flight Simulator really seems to have that as an advantage over XPlane. So how do you decide which of these two bits of software you should get? Well, I think like anything in aviation, it all comes down to what are your mission objectives. If you just want to do VFR flying, so visual flying, you maybe going to be looking at waypoints on the ground alongside your VFR map for training, then Microsoft Flight Simulator from a graphics point of view really does seem to have the edge. If on the other hand you do more procedural based flying, maybe more instrument flying, and there is a copy of the aircraft that you fly in real life that you can download for XPlane, potentially as freeware, then maybe XPlane will be a slightly better choice for you because that setup will be cheaper. Maybe you don't need the sophistication of the graphics that Microsoft Flight Simulator offers. And thirdly, and potentially most importantly, but if all you want to do is use a flight simulator to fly around for fun, just for the joy of flying, the entertainment value alone, then just looking at what we've seen already on Microsoft Flight Simulator, yeah, maybe that's the one that you want to take a bit more of a detailed look at. So I guess to answer the question, has it killed XPlane? I don't believe it has yet, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see if there is a big shift of people across from XPlane to Microsoft Flight Simulator in the future. There is definitely a place for both of them moving forwards. I hope they both continue to exist moving forwards, but I, for one, who've used XPlane for a while now, I'm definitely going to get a copy of Microsoft Flight Simulator. In fact, I have pre-ordered mine at the time of recording this. I want to hear from you in the comments as well. Let's have a healthy conversation down there. I'll jump in the first few hours of releasing this video. What are your thoughts on Microsoft Flight Simulator versus XPlane? Join together in the community in the comments and help each other make a decision on which one to buy. And if you are new to the channel, do consider clicking on this subscribe button. Otherwise, thanks as always for watching. I'll see you in the next video.